Hey, giddy, hi, and welcome. All right, especially freaking winter out there. Not liking that. The good news is I got both my bins out there. Hopefully, they're not so close to the road that the plow guy hits it. But I won't be going having all that junk all over the highway. I don't think that'd be very. Yeah, I don't think that'd be very good. I do have to go deal with putting a cage around that last last tree for the beavers. But I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I think. I let the snowstorm pass and see if I can get that all wired up and done. Uh, I got my wire cutters, so I got them. I found them. They were up home, and I was like, okay, not too much. I'm gonna go through some of my tools today, start sorting those out. Good inside job today. Maybe mop a bit, play my bass. Nephew came down and visited me last night. I was playing the bass and whatever, and I was gonna work it on the. I don't quite have the bass line down for the song Pinto, so I'm gonna basically get that really nailed hopefully today, and then at the end of the day, I'd like to basically uh, change the bass strings, and then I'll be ready for recording for tomorrow. And it's been all day tomorrow recording. So I think almost all my outdoor work around here is going to be done for the season. We're getting. I went out. We did the church. It took me like 5 minutes to shovel the step, or the pathway, whatever. And somebody had already made one little pass, but I you know, shoveled it. Takes me like 5 minutes. But it's like it was before it got bad. And on the way back in, my client, she has one of these Chevy hybrids there, and it's all wheel drive. And we did a little bit of slipping and sliding in a few spots. Uh, the cop came up our road, turned around, and I guess we passed him going out. So he's back and forth, and plow guy's there. So I ended up grabbing the shovel when I got home after doing the church. Went over to my aunt's, shoveled there. She had her music full blast there, so she was like listening to music. So I shoveled off the steps, and halfway between our houses, it's like she goes, "Thanks, Reg." Then I did my uncle's, and Marley was watching me in the window. So when I was done, my uncle came down and basically drove me to the store, but and back, and then I guess they're back up home. Not a nice day to drive around out there. If you don't have to be on the road, you definitely don't want to be on any of the 400 series highways today. Because I think tonight we're going to see like 80-car pileups. It's that kind of it's that kind of a snowfall, right? It's not full white out yet, but give it another hour there. You don't want to be going anywhere. So yeah, so I'm just gonna stay cozy down here today. Play my guitars, play my bass, see if I can record, sort my tools, read some books. Got my nephew reading a book last night. He actually did really well. It's an airplane book, so he was reading that. So I was pretty happy about that. And I'm doing well on this thing. So you can see where I'm at. So I'm getting there. I'm not quite halfway. This book I thought it'd be about 300 pages, but it's probably more like 400 and some odd pages because I'm over 100 pages in. I'm at Hopetown now, but Hopetown doesn't sound very hopeful. I don't know if I'll buy the other two books. You can still get them. It's a trilogy, right? So, and I'm one of those guys. I like standalone books. I'm still researching what books I'm going to get next. Next weekend, I'm gonna if the thrift store is open, I'm gonna go in there. I don't want to take any books out of the library yet because not until I finish that one. Like if I go to the thrift bookstore and it's like all like uh, Harlequin like love novels, okay, well I'm not gonna read those. But maybe I get really lucky. I'm gonna be bringing a lot of stuff there. I think to declutter my life, I think I'm just gonna be giving a lot of stuff away. I'd like to have the yard sale next year, but who wants to hang on to all the stuff? Like my good stuff, yeah, I'll hang on to it to my grave, right? But like the other stuff, yeah, I don't know. But I was also starting to get that urge to paint again and finish up. But I think I know what I'm going to finally do after. I will have to look past the. Hang on, I gotta flip this. Okay, so chair's annoying, but there's the jelly bean lamp. My nephew saw it for the first time yesterday, and I had the candles going on the floor there, and so I said, just don't knock over the candles so we don't burn the house down. And he goes, look at. I said, look at my jelly bean lamp, my racing jelly bean. He's like, that's cool. That's the coolest lamp ever. So when a 12-year-old kid, 12-year-old boy says your lamp is cool, then it's got to be pretty cool because most kids don't give a shit about lamps, right? But that yellow object you see behind it is a painting that I started about 5 years ago. And I started doing it and I was like, okay, what the hell am I going to paint on there? And I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with my simplistic theme because I haven't painted in a while. I want to finish the butterfly trilogy there over the winter if I can. If I can match the colors. I was doing really good on that, and I've got one more to do. It's going to be a green one, the yellow one, the blue one. There's going to be like three vines, and they're going to join up, but on a diagonal. And I think that would be really a really cool set, right? Kind of like my music set, whatever. And then I have a few standalone paintings as well, where they're not a part of. Like I want to do a painting where it's like it's four paintings, but it's really one painting. Like I want to do stuff like that too. You know, like kind of neat art to do stuff like that, right? I'm not a great painter by any stretch of the imagination, but while I'm down here, next to reading books and creating music, might as well paint too. Might even write a book at some point. Uh, Hope you guys are getting a good kick out of the AI stuff. So I'm gonna try to get some good footage for Matt there, so he can go to town mocking me with the AI stuff because it's really funny. He sent me a really funny one last night with like 2030. It's like here I am shooting a whole bunch of cyborgs. I love it. I love it. So there's going to be just so you know, there's going to be an AI Reg movie compilation coming up in the near future. Windows Movie Maker, here I come, put them all together. Uh, yeah, yeah. But I started thinking, you know, and I really don't want to go down the AI route for music videos, but it might be what I have to do for now because I just can't. I could probably film some stuff, but it's like I just can't film anything good. You know what I mean? Like there's just really nothing around here that I can give you. Like I can give you like B stock footage and stuff like that, whatever. You know, and but I want to give you something good. Like I really want actors and actresses, right? But if I can't give you actors and actresses, the next best thing I can give you is like just like an AI visual thing. You know, it'll be stories. I like stories. I'm a story oriented guy. Because I know that when you watch a video and there's a storyline to the video, you tend to watch the video over and over again, right? Like the Anchor series, you know what I mean? Like of the Shogunai series. That storyline is fantastic. You watch it over because it's like a musical film almost, right? Not a musical, but like a musical film. It's got a story and everything like that. So I want to do that with some of my songs, especially the Tomahawk one. I think I could do some really cool stuff there. Um, you know, and if that could generate more revenue, that would be great. And if that could, you know, like from the ad revenue and stuff like that, then maybe I can go to a studio and then make an actual professional video. Maybe not like $20,000 video, but like you know, a video where you pay somebody like you know $50 for the day, or you know, a couple hours of filming or whatever, and you get real people doing real things, and that's a lot of fun. Yeah, so there's that. There's that. But next to that, yeah, no, I gotta get this week. I gotta get that tree covered. Um, that is really big flakes out there right now. That's really snowing. I may have shoveled for nothing. Yeah, but I usually like to do it just at the start of the snow, just in case my aunt has to get into her car. But hopefully she doesn't have anywhere to go today. And hopefully my uncle doesn't have to drive too far. I don't think he's got to go too far, but probably just checking the mail or whatever. And then my dad doesn't hopefully have to go anywhere, and my brother doesn't have to go anywhere, so that's good. So it's like, yeah. But yeah, I'm still like trying to, you know, do the book thing and figure out what books I'm going to keep and what books I'm going to get rid of. So today I'm probably going to go through some of these airplane books. I'm going to keep the best ones. Like, for example, I have a really cool one. Try not to fall out of the chip. Don't fall out of the chip. Don't fall out of the chip. Okay. But this one, I can't wait to read this one. That Spirit of St. Louis on it. But this is a beautiful book. It's got like a leather, not leather, but like a padded. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like it feels like a padded cover. It's really cool. It's called Pathfinders, and it's an aviation book. You know, it's going to talk about like Charles Lindbergh and probably Amelia. Oh, perfect. I got the Spirit of St. Louis right here. What a crazy story the Spirit of St. Louis is. If you don't know about that airplane, that was the beginning of Pan Am Airlines. That was the first transatlantic intercontinental flight. Like it was the first one to do it non-stop without stopping in Iceland and Greenland and all that and hopping over. It was the first one to do it non-stop in that thing. Thing had no windshield. Like, you know, because it was all about the aerodynamics. We look at what was aerodynamic at the time that was an aerodynamic airplane, but it's like it probably wasn't that aerodynamic. The big radial engine out front. It's got to be aerodynamic. Yeah, Charles Lindbergh. Yeah. Remember watching the black and white movie on it and stuff like that. And there's been a few remakes. They haven't really remade it in the modern era like you think they would, like Amelia Earhart and Charles Lindbergh. Which Amelia Earhart, if my nephew's interested in airplanes, I definitely want him to learn about the Avro Arrow, which I have a book on the CF100. There was a book, an Avro Arrow book at the library, but it's always usually taken out because it's a fan favorite, right? Everybody wants to know about the Avro Arrow. That is a book I might actually buy. Maybe one day my nephew and I can go to tour the War Museum, tour the Aviation Museum where I used to work, tour, the Museum of Man, the Museum of Science and Technology, the Museum of, what's the other one? Ottawa's the art gallery. There's a whole bunch of museums in Ottawa. It's probably the city, the Canadian city with the most museums, right? There's lots, And anyway, yeah. So I'd like to be able to take them to those things eventually, and then go to like say some of the zoos and stuff like that in the area. Like Park Omega or someplace like that. I know Amanda, my other Amanda friend there, the Amantha Molly channel one. She took her kids to Park Omega and stuff like that. That was really cool. Yeah, look really cool. You got like buffaloes there and giraffes and a little bit of everything. you know. Uh, yeah. Was it? Yeah, so what I want to get him to learn, if I could find a book, if he's really into these aviation books, and he read out loud to me like a paragraph or two, and he was reading some of the big words, and he was doing really, really good, and I showed him a couple of little tricks, stuff like that, but I was very, very happy about how well he could read for a 12-year-old. Especially like these books are not really geared for 12-year-olds. Like they're not impossible language, like it's not Shakespeare. But I'm not interested in Shakespeare whatsoever. I remember a few paragraphs read to me and stuff like that. I've seen some Shakespeare movies, and so I know the movies are never as good as the books, whatever. But it's just Shakespeare really never appealed to me. I remember Romeo and Juliet. I didn't mind that one that much, but it was just like it just never really Shakespeare is either you like Shakespeare or you don't like it, and I'm kind of in the don't camp. Like I respect it, I just don't like it. Like I don't enjoy it. Right? Incest is just not my thing. It's just not my thing. But let's say my nephew really gets into the aviation book, so I'll get him a book on the Avro Arrow, a small book, something that he can read, quickly, and then I get him a book on, say, like the Red Baron. If I can get, I am going to get them. You know, like I am going to get books. Like one book that I'm looking at, obviously, like the classics. You know, like I'm looking at all the classics, and it's like, okay, well, if I've either seen the movie or I know the story. Like for example, The Godfather, I'm never going to buy The Godfather because I've seen the movies and I know what it's about. Gone with the Wind, I'm never going to buy it. I've seen the movies, I know what it's about. I never read the books, but you know, people around me were reading the books and talking about it and stuff like that in high school. War and Peace. Yes, it's a masterpiece to read. Sure, it's a nice thick book, but again, I know what it's about. It's kind of like it's kind of like it's spoiled when you read it. So most of the Game of Thrones. The Game of Thrones seems like something I'd rather watch than probably read. I'm sure it's phenomenal to read. Lord of the Rings, same thing. I've already seen the movies. I get everybody. Oh, the book's so much better. I'm sure it is, but what, you know, like how much better is it really going to be, and how much different is the story really, really going to be? Not by much, right? I'm sure. So, oh, you have no idea. It's way, way, way more different. But I've heard enough people critique the movies versus the actual book, and it's like, okay, well, you're not. There's no going to be really big surprises. So it's like, okay, to put all that time and effort reading something that you already know about. 1984, Ant Farm, stuff. I mean, if the books come up free and you know, like the whole set's there, it's like, yeah, take it for free. And same thing with the Harry Potter stuff. Like, it's just, yes, I know it's super popular, but I want to focus on books that when I pick them up, you know, like for example, one of the things about this book is I had no idea what it was about. I figured it was either going to be a murder mystery or a dystopian novel. Turns out it's a dystopian wasteland novel, considering it's called the Dustlands. You know, usually that's an indicator. But other than that, I had no expectations of what's in this, and it is getting better. It's getting better. The plot's thickening. You know, but it's like there's nothing in there that's made me go wow so far. But that said, I didn't pay anything for the book, so who knows? But you know, like for example, I want to get a book on Napoleon. And then when I'm done reading that, maybe my nephew might not be ready for that. But I also want a book that I started that I never finished, and a story that I love the story so much, and that is Moby Dick. I think that's. I mean, I've talked. I remember going to school and people that read it. I remember the kids that you know, like it gave me nightmares. You know, like it gave me nightmares. You know, you know, like you're sleeping and you hear a sound. I was like, is that the white whale? You know, like that kind of thing, right? So I'd love to have my nephew read that, but I'd also like to have him read about, say, like the Red Baron, von Richthofen. I do want to, you know. So I'm going to have my series basically fiction, anywhere from uh, you know, like medieval fiction. You know, like think like Vikings and stuff like that. You know, medieval warriors to like Japanese samurai stuff, whatever. Think like Shogun. I would like to get the Shogun book. I remember seeing Shogun when it came out as a TV series way back when I was a kid. I guess the book came out first, uh, but Shogun. That's something. Okay, yeah, it's been such a long time. I would put that book on the list, right? Because it would be something that I know I would really enjoy. But like other books like Moby Dick, okay, yes, it's a classic. Everybody knows about the story. You're not going to get any really surprise, but you're reading the book for the sake of reading, how the book's written. You know what I mean? And the language of it and stuff like that. And it's like there's just something about that story that is so good. That one is one of the classics that I is a must have for me. And but I'm also trying to find really modern books from Canadian authors to what's new out there, right? Because the problem is again, it comes back to that 80-20 rule with the women, basically. And again, it's not a pot shot at women or anything like that, but book reading is 80% women, authors are 80% female, and books are 80%, like published with female readers in mind, which leaves, that's probably why most men read older books, because back then that's when men were writing more, you know what I mean? But that said, when I'm looking at book reviews, what I do is I look at male and female book reviews. And when a book comes across the radar of both, and there's one there where it's like, and like any like book recommendations over here, here's 10 books I recommend kind of thing. There's one book that popped up out of 20 times, 18 times it probably popped up. And it was a favorite of a few, but everybody gave it praise. And they said, like, if you like this type of stuff, this is what you get. I don't know hardly anything about the book, very little details, but it's a book that it looked familiar to me. I couldn't understand why it looked so familiar. Then I realized I saw that at the Walmart at one point. They were promoting it, and I don't want to tell you what it is because I'm in the midst of hunting it down. Maybe the library will get it for me, and if that's the case, I'll borrow it out of the library, and that'll be the very next book I read. There's maybe 2 books at the library that are, I'm sure there's more than 2 books there that are like, I mean, you gotta understand, like, there's only 3 or 4 bookshelves of books at our library. Like, there's not a lot, right? But they do change them over. The neighboring town, they're getting rid of about 1,500 books. They'll sell the whole batch for like $500. So I don't know if they're going to be closing the library out there. I don't see why they would do that unless they're going to be doing renovations, because that's what they did here is they got rid of all the books that were here. Now, mind you, the 1,500 books might be the books that were donated, because like the in Quebec here, I didn't know this, but my aunt was telling me this because she works in the library, that my family pretty much works everywhere. Like I say, one in every 2 people in this town is related to me. So it's a small town, right? 250 people, 4 last names. There you go. It's pretty much true. Like, pretty much a few miscellaneous, but other than that, the dominant names here. But she was saying that like in Quebec, like they can't take books from private publishers. They can only take like the big, I guess they have some sort of a deal with like the big like commercial publishers, right? And obviously you have cultural, like French language stuff that has to be here, and it's Quebec, right? So, but anybody can donate a book to the library. It doesn't matter who published it. So like private publishers, if it's a privately published book or not on the list of approved publishers, they can take the book, but they can't get it for you because of the way the rules are for the bibliothèques in Quebec. But yeah, so that book is kind of like what I'm seeking out. But I'm also looking at like mega books. Something really worthwhile reading. And I know there's a couple of Stephen King books. There's only really 2 that I want to get, because I started really thinking about it over the past. I've been reading this novel now for a better part of 8-10 days. If you were to add it all in, like how many times have I picked up this book and read it? Probably 8 or 10 times. So it's not, and again, like anywhere from, I think the first 3 times I picked this book up. So a year ago I picked this book up once, I read 2 pages, and I picked it up again and read 2 pages, and then I did maybe 3 times where I read like two or more pages, and then the last, maybe it's more like 10 days that I've 10 times I picked this up, and then the past couple of days I've been really, like reading like 20 pages, 30 pages, 40 pages, that kind of thing, because I do want to get through this thing in a reasonable amount of time, and I read typically anywhere for 15 minutes to half an hour's average. That's all I do, just because I do it. Depends on how much time I have at the end of the day. I did do 45 minutes. I have yet to read for a full hour. If I read for a full hour at the pace I'm reading at, I'll cover that book. That book could be done. And the thing is I'm reading at a fast pace, but I'm reading at a pace where I'm 100% taking it in. There's no point in reading a book for the sake that I finished this book in one day. Yeah, what's it about? Well, here's the highlighted notes. Well, then you didn't enjoy it. You really didn't enjoy it, because when you take it in 100%, that's the point of reading a book. But for a lot of the people that you do see, they're like they've turned it into like a competition. Like, I've read The Stand in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Yeah, but how much did you take in, right? And I'm not that guy. I'm like, if it takes me 6 months to finish a book, a year to finish a book, that's fine. but I'll finish it, and I don't want to have like 10 books on the go. And most of these people that you see with these big bookshelves behind them, they haven't read half these books, some of them are like they're sponsored and stuff like that, so they haven't read half these books. Any books I get, I'm going to read, but I want to select books that are worth reading. Again, if it's free books, that's great. Maybe you get one that's good, one that's not. But if you get a book that you really don't like, at least you didn't pay for it. You know what I mean? And you don't have to finish it. If you really do, if I pick it up and it's a girly porn novel kind of thing, with their, what do they call it, your fictional boyfriends or whatever. Yeah. It's like I don't want to read about his dreamy eyes and stuff like that, and other things, because I'm just not into that. You know what I mean? No straight male is going to be into that. You know what I mean? Like that's just not going to happen. I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying, no. I want to read like about Napoleon, Hitler, Alexander the Great, Van Richthofen, maybe some Nietzsche, maybe somebody else, all kinds of historical figures, Jacques Cartier, because like some people, like there was one girl out in BC. She looks like my friend Amanda. It was like holy Jesus, Amanda's doing a book review. Oh, somebody totally did, but it looked just like her, and like maybe not just like her, but very very. Like I saw the thumbnail and I was like, oh my god, that looks like. I just wanted to see how much she looked like. But I ended up listening to her, what she was reading, and she was reading like kind of all over the place. But she had a book on like the fall of the Third Reich, and okay, well that's somebody who's trying to learn stuff, right? But her last book that she recommended out of the 10 books that she was reading. And she was reading big books like, like The Stand and stuff like that. It's such a popular book, right? So for Stephen King, I want It and The Stand. Those are the only 2 books from Stephen King that I really want to read. His big ones, And I think he has a couple other ones that are big like that too. But, like I read Christine when I was younger. I read a couple of his short story books. And I remember there was like these Pick Your Own Adventure books. My sister had some of those. I read a couple of those. So I read more books. I probably read about 30 books of like novels in my lifetime. Of these like tabletop type of books, hundreds, right? But those are not the type of books that, like when I start doing the book reviews, I'm going to start with this one here. And then once I've done the Elvis biography, I'll review it. And then I've got one I read a couple of years ago. It's about basically... like calling in wild animals and stuff like that and hunting. I'll do that, right? But yeah, those type of books are not like entertainment books. They're more like knowledge books. And a lot of people read for knowledge. So you read something that's historically accurate, like some of these World War II books here. I'll read those, and then have my fiction, and again, whatever it's going to be, whether it's like fantasy, sci-fi, historic, historic fiction, stuff like that. Yeah, I'll read that. And then other things would be like biographies. Like I want to read Marcus Aurelius. I want to read Plato's Republic. I want to read maybe Socrates at some point. I want to read about Napoleon. I know a lot about Napoleon, so there's really not. But I would like to have a book about Napoleon. It's just he's not top priority, but it's just so like talk about a man that has affected so many things going on in the world in his time. Like this man was a very influential in shaping the world, and a lot of people don't realize how much Napoleon actually shaped our modern world, for good, for bad, whatever. But the French Revolution is basically the beginning of modern Europe. You know what I mean? French Revolution 2, and maybe we'll have French Revolution 3 fairly soon. They tend to be quite a little bit revolutionary there. Esti per tabernac. I don't know if they say St. Tabernacle in France, though. They do here in Quebec. They definitely do here in Quebec. Um, but other big books, like it's like I really want to narrow it down to stuff that I could take my time with. I don't need a 500 book collection, and there's a lot of books here that I'm going to be getting rid of. Uh, you know, they're going to be like the if it's there's a book exchange not too far from here, which I should have checked out before the end of the season when I was cycling past this little book thing. I should have looked in there and see what books were in there, and maybe there might have been something good in there, and I could have taken something and then brought something in its place, right? Book exchange, you know. But the idea too is I do want a few books that I'm going to hang on to, but I think I'm going to go with quality over quantity, no matter what, just because of how. Okay, like today I did a little bit of work, like if I did a half an hour's worth of shoveling today, okay, whatever, no problem. I could still have time to read novels and record my music and do this and do that, make videos. I could do all that stuff, no problem. But come April, March, April, where I'm working, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week on almost the entire summer. At that point, it's just like, okay, no, I just don't, whatever book I'm reading in March, if I'm not finished it by the end of March, I'm probably not going to finish it until, this time next year, right? Which we're almost into December. I can't believe that. Wow, where did the year go? What a crazy year! Like just to write a book about this year alone, like that's crazy. But yeah, no, I got a couple of big books on the horizon. Moby Dick, I'll let you guys know that one's going to be a staple for sure. It's like a top priority book out of the classics. And I was looking at all the classics and stuff, like Clockwork Orange and stuff like that. But it's like I already know the story though, And then I even started thinking about the S.E. Hinton books. It's like, but I already read them. You know what I mean? But it's just, The Outsiders is such a great story. I would like to have Outsiders for sure. Tex, Rumblefish, that was then, this is now, and I think there's a couple of other ones. I don't know about those ones. I've read them, but it was just like, but I've read them. You know what I mean? But The Outsiders, I think, would be like, there's always like a revised edition coming out every year of that book. Like it's just like a lot of like Stephen King's It. There's like not It, but The Stand. There's like I don't really know anything about I know the setting. It's a post-apocalyptic setting for the book, and It the same thing. I know it's roughly what it's about, but I've never seen the movies, and I never let anybody tell me exactly what it's about. The Stand, I did. My sister had the book. I think she had the 800-page version of it, going by the cover, which was, I think, the original one that was released. I think my sister had that. She might even still have it. Who knows? Bottom line is, I started reading it. I got a couple of pages in, and that was it. I couldn't even tell you what I read. I was a teenager, right? So I don't remember. But I know I always wanted to have that feather in my cap of finishing that book. So it's one of those things. One of the things, I know like a lot of my subscribers are a lot like me. They're working men and stuff like that. But I really do encourage you to get a book. I don't care if you just commit to like a page, 2 pages. When I say 2 pages, this is what I'm talking about. You open your book, you got page 1, page 2. Just read that every night. That's going to take you minutes at the most. Do it just before you go to bed, whatever. Just before you leave to work in the morning, whatever you have time for. But just make the time to do it, right? And then sometimes when it catches on, like maybe that'll take you a year to finish a book that size. Fine, but just have a book going, even if you're not a book person. It's just a great way to expand your horizons, and it's the discipline that it's going to build, that you commit to something. And like, for example, like it's like, oh, it's near the end of the day. Before I go home, it's like, oh, I got to do my reading, And now it's starting to become muscle memory. It's starting to become a ritual, right? Couple of days, like a week of doing this, you're set for life, right? And the other thing too is like for people that are poor like me, that can't afford to travel places and buy a lot of stuff and whatever. Okay, yeah, I got some nice, really nice toys, but I really don't buy much. Like I don't spend a lot of money. It's just when I do spend money, it's big money. My toys are expensive, but again, if you were to take everything I own and tally it all up at its market value or whatever, I really don't own anything. I really don't own much, and I'm getting rid of as much stuff as I can. I'm gonna like flog some tools and anything that I have like really redundant. Like if I have like 10 of the same type of screwdriver, like there's a lot of this stuff I pick up free off of job sites that where it's like people are throwing, like we're clearing places out, and the widow's like, oh hey, like my husband died, here, take his tools. You know what I mean? I just don't. And you tell them, hey, look, you can sell those things. I just don't want to bother with it. Just take it. Take it or throw it out. Okay, well, I might as well take it. And then you're stuck with stuff that you're just not using. So I'll get rid of that stuff. Keep the good stuff. And then once it's all sorted and everything like that, then you can keep an inventory of what you actually own, and then you can declutter your life. When you declutter your life, you're not servicing everything. Like you're not trying to fix this and that. You don't have a whole bunch of projects going that you really can't manage. Books are a very easy, manageable project. As long as you don't go like what a lot of people do. It's like, okay, I'm going to go out and get a free book. Oh, I could take 80 free books? Yeah, go ahead, take 80 free books. But are you realistically ever going to read them all? Maybe you will. But that's a big commitment, right? So if you're going to commit to something that you will actually be interested in. Rather, again, quality over the quantity, that kind of thing. So when I do get the book list going, hopefully I'll be through most of these. All the woodworking magazines, I'm going to skim through them real quick. I might keep a few, chances are, because they have like little project stuff in there that might be interesting. That's why I kept them. Somebody was getting rid of them. I was, I'll take them and then I'll decide, right? They don't take magazines at the thrift shop for obvious reasons. It's just like they'll be, here's all the magazines from 1964 for Home and Garden. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you'll be overrun with magazines in 5 seconds, right? They'll take books. They'll do a book exchange, and apparently, according to my aunt, says, oh yeah, Ashley and the other guy basically sorted everything out like in their categories. So the cool thing there, I know I dropped off a ton of, like, what did I drop off? Probably about 50 movies. Remember I got those big boxes of free DVDs from the library when they were getting rid of the DVDs? Well, I've watched most of them. I still got probably about 15 or 20 left to watch. And the best ones I kept. But I was like, last winter, I was watching a movie a night, right? Which I'm going to start doing that again, where I watch a movie and then go on the internet. Like I'm trying to do things to keep me off the internet a little bit longer per night, so I'm not just doom scrolling all the time, right? I'd rather be reading than doom scrolling. That said, I want to be informed of what's going on in the world, so I can make all kinds of videos and complain about everything, because I like complaining, because it's fun. You guys get entertainment out of the doom, and me bitching and whining about everything. So that's always fun too. But I want to do more than just that. Like I don't want to, we bash the kids for playing video games too long, but then we go sit in front of the TV. There's no TV down here. I don't want a TV down here. I'm not saying I'd never get one, but it'll be hooked up to like a DVD player, something like that. Like I'm not this type of guy that's going to sit and watch Netflix, nothing against people who do, but maybe before you turn on the Netflix, maybe read a couple of pages or something. One thing I used to love that Amanda, and I used to do, and all the friends around here, it's all gone away, but mind you, usually turned into drinking games, but we'd play Monopoly, and there'd be like 20 people there, 10 people there at Amanda Molly's there. Would be there. She'd invite everybody over and say, okay, well, bring over your booze, whatever. And the idea was just to get everybody together. We played Pictionary, and Mad Gab. Ashley is the worst partner to ever do Mad Gab with. Your brain will hurt. And I'm like sitting there yelling gibberish at her, and she can't get it. She's just sitting there giggling and laughing. I'm like, woman, get it, just get it. And she didn't get it, and then she'd do the same thing, and it's like my brain hurts because it just twists your brain. And if you've ever played Mag, it's a lot of fun, but it'll make your brain hurt. Your sides will hurt from laughing, but your brain's gonna hurt just from trying to blah 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 blah. So what are you saying? How do you know what I'm saying? Babbling. It was fun. That was a really fun night. But doing that with a bunch of people, that's great socialization. Cheap. And you don't have to have a booze. It's just, like you can just have a game night for the sake of a game night. And the rules of the game night means no phones. Everybody's phone is off. You hear, but Monopoly, that can go on for hours and hours and hours. It's like the game Risk. You don't play Risk with anybody because that could last a week. And then, of course, there's like the guys that do the Dungeons and Dragons and stuff and Warhammer 4,000, 40,000 or whatever. That's fine. That's next level. But those guys don't realize it, but they're socializing, right? But the problem is those are like really guy-centric stuff. I like stuff that has a mixed guys and girls. Like Clue. I used to like playing Clue when I was younger. I got the Jumanji game for my nephew. I think it was last year, the year before for Christmas, and my brother and him and my sister-in-law played it, and they said it was really fun to play. And they said you had like to do things, right? And so it's like I was just happy that they enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't digital. You know what I mean? It wasn't digital. That's what I like about it. And I think that's something that's missing from society today is that just people aren't engaged, and like there's an escapism to it. Don't get me wrong, because you're there getting entertained and having fun, but you're engaged in this escapism where it's not just like sitting in like a screen is just, it's like a controller is just like okay, you know what I mean? Like you can only do so much of that, and that's why I think a lot of gamers get depressed. Is like because they're not engaged, like they're doing the game, they're going through the motions, and maybe when their game is brand new, it's something else. But after a while, like I've played enough video games. Heck, I played in the arcades. I know it's not the same as the games today, but I played computer games and stuff like that. And the last one I played was Stronghold, which was fun, but I couldn't beat the pig. He beat me every time. The very last level, the very last one, I just couldn't beat him. It was like I'd always run out of time. That was the hardest one. How do you beat the pig? Because that's what the main evil guy was the pig. But like it was a strategy game and stuff like that. But after like a couple of hours of playing, you're just like, okay, maybe I should do something more constructive with my life. You know what I mean? The thing about books is that you're actively participating your brain to create new neurons, right? So that's why you want to do that. Like from reading this book here in the past week, I especially noticed it last night that my brain is a lot more active at night. Not kind of okay, I can't fall asleep. Okay, last night was I couldn't sleep well last night. But like the night before that, I noticed my imagination and my dreams are a lot more vivid. They're a lot more detailed and stuff like that. And I think what it is because my brain is getting active reading words and stuff like that and learning how to comprehend stuff, more and, whatever. So it seems like it makes your dreams better, like, so it's like, that's cool. That's really cool. There's a lot more detail there. And I think that's what happens is the active brain thing. There was a guy, like I know the world we live in right now is no matter how you talk about it, it's crazy, right? So everybody's hyper polarized, everybody's angry at the other side and stuff like that. And I get all that, right? Okay, fine. And there's just people, like, for example, people on the right can't just come out and say, hey, I'm a right winger in the middle of the street. They'll get, basically chewed down pretty quick, right? Um, and the radical left, I bet, is the most unhappy people on the planet. Like they're just so discontented all the time, and it comes back to my theory of the suicide gene, right? So, but what I'm also talking about too is that the polarization, okay, it politicizes everything. So books are politicized. So, oh my God, you're reading Mein Kampf, and it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you? Especially if you want to better understand a person, read their memoirs. Like you could read Mark Twain, you could read, Alexander the Great, you could read King Leonidas, you could read Caesar, you could read Plato, whatever. Um, you could read about Hitler, you could read about Mussolini, you could read about Mao, you could read about, again, I have Stalin, read about Stalin. You want an interesting character of history, probably the most scary man. The two most scary men that I think, the top three scariest men, no particular order, would be Stalin, Mao, and Saddam Hussein. I think these are the three scariest dictators next to like in the modern age. Like I'm not talking about Genghis Khan and stuff like that, but even at that, learning about Genghis Khan and stuff like that. So all these historical figures, like Napoleon, like will the British ever write a book about Napoleon giving him praise? No, but you can get maybe the Argentinians might read write nicer books about Napoleon, right? You know what I mean? Like so, but the thing is you can get a lot of perspectives about this one man, but the best perspective you're ever going to get about the man is his memoirs. You know what I mean? Even if there's not a lot out there, there's enough. There's enough to get inside the head of Napoleon for sure. But you know what I mean? Like, was he one of the antichrists, one of the three antichrists? It was Hitler and Napoleon, and the third one's yet to show up. It's like whatever. But anyway, getting back to that girl, I know I'm jumping around here a bit. That was basically showing her. I guess she was out in BC, is where she said she was. The last book she came to was the Bible, and it's like it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, yeah, I've read the Bible. Like there's probably like the Book of Psalms I have up there. That was my grandmother's. She had a bunch of them, these little books of Psalms, and I probably read that about 3 or 4 times. Like just over the years, right? The Book of Mormon, I always wanted to get a hold of one of those. The Quran, I started reading the Quran just to see what's in it, and I know enough now that like I don't need to read the whole thing. Like I got the idea of what they're at, what it's about, right? It doesn't mean I agree with it or disagree with it, but the idea is like if you better want to understand your world, understand the people who are in it and the way they think. Again, go to the source that inspires them, right? And then go with that. But that made me think about something really, really special when this girl made it. And like, yeah, this girl, like, she didn't read it from a point of view of a religious person, but just to better understand, like she says, like how prevalent, Catholicism is in our world. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you should probably know something about it. Now, if you're an atheist type of person, or maybe you're not an atheist, but you're following a different religion, it still doesn't hurt to dabble in other religions and just to see, okay, well, what is the other side? What is it that they believe? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you have to be religious, but what I'm saying is that you will, understand their worldview a bit better. You know what I mean? And it goes on and on. And then I thought of something after my mom passed away. Okay, so I'm reading her Elvis books, those two. And when I'm done reading those, I'll put those back in that little case there, and they'll stay there till the day I die, and then they'll go to the next of kin, whatever. But I'll keep those safe for the rest of my life. But there was one more book my mom had and it was a big book, a huge book. And it went to my sister after my mom passed away, God rest her. And my sister had it for a good while, and about 2 years ago she brought it back. She said, "Here." I guess it was just too hard for her to hang on to it. My sister had a very hard time with my mom. Well, we all did, but like, the daughters always have a harder time with the loss of the mom, right? So, um, whatever. So she's like, here, Reg, take it back, and it's her Bible. My mom's Bible from when she was a kid, and it's like that thick. It's huge. It's pretty fragile. It's pretty frail. But I'm like, I read Revelations out of that, and I've also read the Book of Creation out of it, and it, over the years, like, every now and then grab it. Like, again, we weren't a deeply religious family, but obviously my mom believed in God. We're Christians, right? Well, Catholics, I guess you could say. Practicing. I went to communion. My sister went to communion. I don't even know if I was ever baptized. You know what I mean? Like, I really, I really don't know. I never really thought to ask. I think my mom said yes. I'm pretty sure she said yes. You're baptized a Christian. Uh, you're a Catholic, whatever. Because West Quebec or Quebec, right? Like, Catholics, like in the States, you have more Christians. Here we have more Catholics, right? It's all Christianity at the end of the day, but nuances. Like, there's 40,000 different denominations or something like that of Christianity. So just so but that's around the world. But in the West, there's a handful, right? So Catholics and Protestants. My family, Native Irish French is pretty much Catholic Protestants. Nobody's really atheist in my family. Like, like cousins and whatever. Like, most of them are non-practicing, but most of them are not atheist. I'm sure some of them might be, but like, I have one cousin. I think she would be atheist, but in general, no. We're still old stock Canadian lineage. Again, some of my cousins might be a little more new agey or whatever. But in general, no, they're all pretty much, and none of them are like vitriol towards Christianity, like you see with the polarization. But yeah, no, that Bible. I'm going to show you guys that Bible. I have it down here. I'm pretty sure, and I think it's just in the next room. And it's like, yeah, I should probably put that out and start reading that sucker, because it is a great book, no matter what your point of view is, whether you treat it as a historical reference, of incidents and times, or just the Bible. I love Bible stories. I really do. Are they true? Are they not true? Doesn't matter. They're great stories. You know what I mean? Like, it's a book that inspires the imagination. Now, let's say you're agnostic or you're an atheist. Okay, anything that like the teachings of Jesus, if you just follow his teachings as a man, it's words to live by, right? If you go with just the 10 Commandments, right? If you could follow the 10 Commandments to the letter, you'll have a perfect life. Just about. Maybe not. Maybe not in this world, but you'll definitely do better than most. You know what I mean? Because the 10 Commandments is right hand path, right? It's not right wing. It's right hand path. Don't confuse the two. Left hand path, right hand path are two different things. And a lot of people don't know the distinction between it, because everything's so politicized. You can be a very politically left wing person that follows a right hand path. You know what I mean? Like, I do know people like this, where like they hold themselves to account, they take care of themselves, they treat others well, they're stoic. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's kind of where you want to be. Kind of where you want to be. But yeah, there's a book that I'm gonna definitely, and I have the book. I have a couple of versions of the book, right? So, the last thing I wanted to talk about was the guy that was talking about a boot. We've got to say it properly, a boot. And it's what I was, like on my book search for, books to really track down, and there's a couple of neat ones. I don't even have to write them down. Because like it's kind of one of those things, like once I'm interested in something and I commit it to memory, it's like I remember it for life. Like I just retain that information so well. And this is why discussion is next to reading, the discussion after the read is probably just as important or more important than the read itself, right? Meaning whatever book you're reading. But I was listening to this guy, and just by looking at him, I could tell him he wasn't your normal, left-leaning book person, right? And again, everything culturally has shifted greatly to the left, and like of accepted culture. Right-wing culture is very vilified, whatever. But in polarization, both sides vilify each other. Just so you know. But the system favors the left, right? You pick a modern Western country, even ones that are, so-called right-wing are still very, very left. So a lot of right-wingers, like when you listen to these people make book recommendations, there are books that come up, say like Nietzsche and stuff like that, that are, kind of indicators that they're not just woke people reading books to show off. Like these people are after, a book I want to get is from, for example, the Golden one. I want to see his book Dauntless. He wrote a book called Dauntless, and he's been saying, "Hey, buy my book Dauntless." He's been saying it for years. He recommends Horus Heresy. He recommends, I think Millennial Woes. He recommends the Iliad. All these books, Locke. Sargon of Akkad with Locke and stuff like that, and Nietzsche and all that. And there seems to be guys that are like, okay, they might be a little bit politically left, politically right, but they tend to fall into these books of philosophers that tend to more open up your mind to that, you'll never be a normie after that. There's no way you could be. And this one guy, I think, like I was listening to him and I was looking at him and I'm like, okay, I know you can't judge a book by its cover, but I do. I absolutely judge a book by the covers because that's the first thing you're presented, right? So that's your first step. But the cover is only to just kind of tell me what might be in it. My expectations are always, I don't want to know what's in it. I want to be surprised by what's in it. Because when you're caught off guard by ideas, that's what makes you think the most. Now, what he got at, and this is something I talked about in another video. I don't know if I'll publish it or not, post it or not. But I wanted to put it in this one, and it was because it was a really good point. And he said something that happens to writers, and you tell me if this sounds familiar to you if you know some writer, or not writers, but like readers, is they get so obsessed with their books and they get into these intellectual books that challenge their worldview and all that, and that's great and dandy, But then when they want to discuss it with people, there's nobody on their level to discuss it with because everybody's talking about the football game or the hockey game or whatever, or the latest video game or whatever, or pop stars or just stuff that just you don't you're not interested in and whatever, and therefore you become mentally isolated, or what he referred to was you're now in the wilderness, like this knowledge wilderness, and it's isolating and it's lonely, and you can't communicate, and then you find yourself you can't just talk to normal people. And I'm like, he wasn't saying it from a smug point of view. Therefore, I was like, okay, so he's not one of those guys. And what I mean by one of those guys is these book people or these intellectuals that, lead with their IQ, so to speak. And here's the problem. I can't talk to normies because they're beneath me. They basically, I can't talk to these stupid people. It's a waste of my time to talk to these people. Why would I talk to somebody who has less knowledge than me kind of thing. And you do see this in like intellectuals, that smugness. It gets to the point where it's like especially they see a guy like me, they're just like, oh, this guy's just an idiot redneck, right? And I've had that on this video, on this channel many years. And then you listen to me for a while, and some people are like, okay, he's wacky, but he's like the most brilliant guy I've ever listened to, because it's just I give you the Forrest Gump footnotes of the theory of relativity. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it's the way I present it. Yeah, it comes off from Hillbillies Central, but you get the knowledge you need, and you get it in a way that you can understand it and appreciate it, because I don't give it to you as I'm better than you, therefore you must listen to me, because, how dare you not? How dare you, right? But I'm also, the reason why I'm able to do this is because I'm a people person. Whether I want to be or I don't want to be, I just know how to talk to people. Why? Because I've dealt with in a 7.5 year, in my 7.5 year, how will we put this? My 7.5 years in the incarceration of retail. Okay, I dealt with maybe not quality time, but I dealt with probably somewhere between 1 million and 1.5 million people. Yeah, you would not think that, but when I started looking at the numbers in the store, and it's just like, this is how many people come in a day. The average employee was doing, I'm like, I dealt with probably 1.5 million people. Maybe like for split seconds and multiple people at a time. But you learn how to read people and meet them where they're at, right? So you get somebody comes into the store, they're really, really mad, and they're, I need this freaking thing, and they're having a bad day, whatever, and they leave with a smile on their face and bought twice as much as what they were going to regularly buy, just because how you dealt with them, because you met them on their level, right? And you don't get it right every time. But anybody that sits there and tells me I don't want to talk to the John Q public because they're just so beneath me, because my IQ is so high, and you know these type of people where they have to tell you what their IQ is. Okay, that's great, thanks, but I didn't ask. Like when people do that, that's a red flag right there of how the indicator of the type of person, where they want to just talk down to everybody, right? Because they're so smart. And I'm just like, they don't get it. They don't get it. Look, an idiot savant has more social skills than these people. You know what I mean? And they have no social skills whatsoever. But even an idiot savant can be pleasant to deal with. They can be unpleasant to deal with if you've ever dealt with them. There was one guy in particular, two guys, and this guy would just talk like transistors and resistors to you, but he had no social skills whatsoever, right? But if you met him where he was at, he was actually you could pick up dude, just keep talking while I'm working. You're teaching me, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. Okay, fine. I'm not talking about the idiot savants. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people that just have no social skills. Because if you really want to learn things and appreciate, and you don't want to be one of these people that read books and you're so isolated into your books, you end up like the people with the video games where you're just depressed and lonely because you can't communicate with anybody outside video games. You can't communicate with anybody outside your books, regardless of what the books are. Okay, here's the trick. Okay, put your pride away, put your ego away, put a smile on your face, kill people with kindness. If you can't have a good discussion with a 2 or a 5-year-old person, you are the problem. It's as simple as that. Because A, you cannot think like a child. And B, if you can't be charmed by a child, you can't learn. Because all children is interest, intrigue, and curiosity. And you can learn a lot from children just by watching their quirkiness, right? They will say things that just make no sense. It's babble, but you sit there and try to rationalize why they think this way as such little funny little creatures, and you can't get it. They're a mystery wrapped in an enigma, and the laughter of children is so underrated. And it's like once you get that, once you get that, and I can only scratch the surface here. I can't put into words why it is so important that you can communicate with 5-year-olds. Because if I think of 5-year-old me, where did he go? He's gone. I'm 52-year-old me. And 52-year-old me, okay, thinks like a 5-year-old to some degree. Okay, whatever. I still have that kind of, giddiness and quirkiness that I was when I was 5, and I know I still have that funny bone. As all my relatives, oh, you're such a funny bone, because you're like always making some stupid joke that makes no sense. Give you an idea, and I don't know why I did this. I'm 5 years old. My mom and dad take me into a restaurant, and with my sister. My brother wasn't born yet, and I'm 5 years old, and I said, "Can I order? Can I order?" And they're like, "Okay, you can order." Right? So, and I'm like, I want a dog sandwich. A hot dog, right? But I called it a dog sandwich. And I'm killing myself laughing. I remember doing this, and my mom's all embarrassed. Like, he wants a hot dog. They kind of like they don't get it. I'm like, but this is the greatest joke ever. No, it's not. It's the stupidest thing I've ever said. Well, no, I've said stupider things. I know that. But to a 5-year-old, that was the world. And I heard a couple of people just snickering in the background. You're like, in the line, stupid kid, right? But they were probably looking at me like, how did this kid come up with that? And thinking it's the funniest thing ever, right? The same way my little cousin, I think Chloe, sitting beside me and my nephew on Thanksgiving, she looks right at me and she goes, "You know what I like?" And I go, "What?" She goes, "Bread on my face." And she, a piece of buttered bread. She goes like this. Bread stuck to her face. She pulls it up, and she's just killing herself laughing. I nearly pissed myself. I nearly fell out of my chair. And my nephew's sitting there mortified. He's a little bit older. He's about 9 years old, and he's looking. Why did she do that? I don't get it. But I'm just like, and I look at my cousin, and I'm like, "Did you see what she just did?" He goes, "No, what?" I said, "Look, she just slapped her face into the bread, and it was stuck." Oh, she does stuff like that all the time. It's like he was just like, "Yeah, it's the way." So I'm like, I know who the comedian of the family is going to be, but I'm like, what would possess a child to stick their face in a piece of buttered bread and laugh about it? That's why you can't think like a child, right? But if you could, with having rational logic and intellect, how much could you enjoy life? And then tell me about your IQ again. You know what I mean? You don't get it. You know what I mean? It's like you're focused on something that's that much consequence in your life. It really is. Yes, high IQ people tend to do better. That's it. But are they any happier? No. Why? Because if you can't think like a kid, you can't be happier. That's why, like when I'm with my nephew, I tell him stupid jokes almost every night at the dinner table. I love doing it. Like I steal them basically from Facebook memes, but don't tell him that. He thinks I'm brilliant because I'm coming up with it myself. But now he's starting to do it, right? And I'm always saying, tell your friends that. Tell your friends this. So like I love listening to kids try to tell a joke because they can't tell a joke to save their lives, right? So if it's not just spontaneous and bang out there, they just can't do it. Because they're trying to remember it, but it's scrambling around in their brain and they don't know whether to tell the punchline first or the joke first. So they're telling and they're laughing because they're like, "This is a joke, it's the greatest thing ever." And you're like, "Oh, that's so funny." This kid's nuts, But when you think about it from the point of view of a child, it's brilliant. Why? Because intrigue, curiosity, the world is a wonder. And we lose that at some age. And then we take to books trying to find it again. That's why Peter Pan is such a popular book. What is Neverland? It's basically a place where dead children go, right? And it's fucking grim, right? But what is Neverland to the children that are there? Well, basically Peter Pan is the antagonist. Now, Pan himself, Peter Pan is based on Pan, right? Which is like a trickster god and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's basically these children that don't want to grow up, these dead children that don't want to grow up, right? That's why they're fighting with the adults, Captain Hook and stuff like that, right? And you'd say, like, okay, well, that makes sense to a degree, but is that not the metaphor for the loss of innocence from going from a child to a man, where you can no longer think like a child? And how can we lose that after experiencing it? How do we lose that and not be able to get it back? Well, we can't get it back. Our brains develop, right? So you can't think like a child. So to get back what this guy was talking about, a boot, you gotta say it properly, a boot, that, like, it can be lonely in the abyss, like after you read books that challenge your way of thinking, and the world that you thought what it was is not. So in other words, when you get outside your echo chamber and you're challenged, you really have to, you can't just practice moral relativism, you actually have to stand for something. And this is why we find society so polarized, is because the red pill, so to speak, when it hits people, it's a ton of bricks, isn't it? It's mentally a ton of bricks, and that can be isolating because it's like, look, I'm in la la land myself. Okay, I can't do the geopolitical stuff on this channel. I can't, right? You'll get demonetized, and I've worked too hard to get here. I can do philosophy and stuff like that, but I gotta stay within the saving graces of whatever the goalpost moving YouTube algorithm is for the time, right? That's why, like, my BitChute, like, I'll put my political, like, my real political leanings there, right? And you can go over there and get mad at me there. But what I'll do here is just, I won't tell you how to think, but that you should think, teach you to think, like that. That was what was taught to me, and that's what I would like to put forth out in the world. And the best way to do that is to realize that isolation comes from limitation, and it comes from limiting yourself. Like, you have to go on the hero's journey at all walks of life. Your inner, embrace your inner Beowulf. That's why you read these stories, right? You have to reclaim your Peter Pan like innocence and stuff like that, But you have to understand that it's also stuff that you have to be willing to leave in the past as you grow as a person. If not, you will be dragged down by the anchors of your past to the point where you feel isolated, alone. And again, this is what so many people in our society are, that's why we have the everything crisis going on. Like, the uptick in suicides on, like, for men and stuff like that. I know, again, touchy subject and all that. It's the numbers are just absolutely devastating, right? We have crisis, but it's also happening to women. How come? Well, there's a common thread there. It's that disconnect, the loss of innocence. Believing a worldview that's being challenged all the time, whether you're on the left or the right, right? So the question then becomes: should you be on the left or should you be on the right? And the answer is: are you talking politically or path? You should be on the right hand path, whether you're left wing or right wing politically. That doesn't matter. It's the path that matters, because the right hand path keeps you grounded in reality. It keeps you accountable. It keeps you. It focuses you on the important things in life. That's why, as a nationalist, I'm always saying family, nation, future, because I completely appreciate what it does. With a strong family, you can create a strong nation, and with a strong nation, you can have a strong future, right? And all that's being challenged as we speak. World's but if you pick up a book, like a history book, you realize that the world's, most of human history for the past 12,000 years is a very unstable one. Like mankind, like, okay, since the Enlightenment, we've chilled out a lot, right? And we've had rule of law in most Western countries and stuff like that. But barbarism is the world norm, that is what we're going back to. And that's going to be a very dark path for a lot of people in the future generations that they're going to have to do. But that said, there are going to be people that are going to create a new renaissance out of that. And we're in the development of the new humans right now. So those that have what I call, again, I know more studies needed, but that nihilistic suicide gene, the moral relativist gene, the left-hand path stuff, the hyper radical, those people weren't, back in the day, were not meant to survive. You know what I mean? Back, when we were hunter gatherers or Neanderthals or, whatever, those people just simply wouldn't have survived. Now, somebody can live to 100 years old with spina bifida. I'm not saying those people's lives are worthless and they should be all dead because of whatever. No, I'm just telling you, modern technology is advanced the quality of life to the point where those who would have the hardest time to mentally survive, and there's a spectrum here, have survived. And the thing is they don't know how to deal with that, and neither do those who actually don't have that problem. So the problem is, again, the anchors of polarization in society has basically done this to us, where it's like the people that are sane and normal are being driven crazy by the insane people, right? So what do? And then, of course, you have the brainwashed out there that their worldview is correct and your worldview is completely incorrect. And they don't realize that there's nuance in the middle because of all the propaganda. And people coming out of that ether, those people, you could, like the Matrix is a very big, has some really good allegories with the, coming out of the Matrix, right? There's some people that, like would come out of the Matrix, like Neo himself, right? And he comes out of the Matrix and he's fine. Most people die. Why? Because of the shock of, of realization, that hit of stoicism that says you're not in Kansas anymore and this is the real world. This is why you see people, that double down on the most insane things, because it's their brain trying to survive, right? And your brain will rewire itself at some point, to a degree. But there are those that are so far gone in our society that, we got to ride it out. The only way out is through. So when this guy was saying that, like, you get into the, you start reading books and you start going down all these rabbit holes, and your ideals get challenged and stuff like that. This guy sounded like he was becoming very red pilled. He was moving towards the right. But the problem is it's a lonely place, because that's where you're going to find out that it's, the vitriol comes at you very quickly. When you, like go sit down, like sit down at the dinner table with your family and say, "Hey, I'm a nationalist." Yeah, watch what happens. You can't just out yourself like that. You have to kind of lead by example, get them to like your ideas, and then say, "Yeah, these are nationalist ideas." I didn't realize it myself, but yeah. Or when you hear somebody in your family ranting about this political figure or that political figure and how they can do no right or they can do no wrong, how this person is perfect, how that person is imperfect, blah, blah, blah. And you will get these things. And it's what you're hearing. And this is where, like, reading a book like Moby Dick will kind of make you understand the allegory of Moby Dick is basically obsession. The dangers of obsession. So you get these people that they go to work and it's like everybody at work is just a complete disaster and they can never do anything right, and I do all the work and I'm the best one, and it's just like, that's not healthy. That is not healthy. And you get a lot of people that are like this, and the thing is that mind is an isolated mind because it can't open up to others. It can, it becomes a person that just they're always angry. They're always on the back foot, trying to defend themselves against what they perceive, whether real or imagined, as, a challenge to their way of thinking, right? Because it's like, no, is that the wind? Or somebody here. I might have to shut this. Could it be a snow beast or my nephew? Oh no, it's just It's probably Marvin. Marvin, where is he? I seen him yesterday. Is that just the wind blowing against me? It is the wind blowing. That's cold out here. That's cold out here. Anyway, yeah. So I like what the guy had to say, and I like responding to people that like have no idea I'm responding to them. It's almost like I'm just stealing their ideas for the sake of. But I do like these long form videos. You know, you guys know this is what happens when I have the time to do this stuff, right? Because then you guys come back not because I'm telling you everything you want to hear. You come back because because at the end of the day, it's like there's a discovery here. There's a discovery for me. Like a lot of the things I come up with, it's like just in realization of discussing it out loud. Hence why you should have as many conversations with as many different type of people who think many different ways, just to be a fly on the wall. You know what I mean? Just to be the man passing through time in the world. You know what I mean? And not get so hung up on you're right, you're wrong, whatever. But just it's not about having an open mind. Anybody can have an open mind, but more of just accepting people at where they're at. And I think once you start doing that, you won't get lost in your books. They'll just be an add-on to your thing of knowledge. Now, I can understand when you read really dark, depressing books, it will probably trigger those thoughts. So that's why you got to round things out. You do need your happy ending once in a while, in your hero's journey, right? But if you only understand the world from the point of view, of nihilism, yeah, everything's going to be bad. Everything's going to be bad. And I get it. We have a lot of doom scrolling, but if you just look at the world for the balance, there's still lots of beauty left in the world. You just have to you kind of open your eyes to it. And this is where conversations with just anybody and everybody can kind of, and again, you're not going to be everybody's best friend. You're not going to connect with everyone. There's some people you just simply can't talk to them because they're so snappy, they're so rude, they're so irate. It's just like, yeah, okay, pick your battles. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the person that has to, bring up political discussions at the Christmas table. Like you just don't do stuff. Again, these people don't know how to function in society, right? So you do get them. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, well, you know what? If you're going to be doing stuff like that, right? You have to understand that, polarizing figures, like time and place. But there's some people that it's like, okay, they find out a little bit of information, one side of the aisle or the other, and then suddenly they just have to blurt it to the world 24/7, and they become so hard to talk to. And when these people are challenged, you see their true colors come out. And that's when you really start to realize, okay, how far off the rocker am I? For me, I'm like, make life funny. Life is hard enough as it is. I love my favorite philosophy. One of my favorite philosophies is this. And if you can actually practice it in its meaning and really like put like some deep thought, it comes from the movies Devil's Rejects, right? Very dark movie, sick movie, Rob Zombie movie, but a great movie. But it's a bunch of like what's a like basically homicidal maniacs driving around murdering everybody, right? But the best line in that movie is, "I keep my standards low, so I'm never disappointed." And boy, if you can practice that, you will be so happy all the time. It won't matter if it's like raining doom out there. It just doesn't matter. It really just doesn't matter. Just take it all in. You know what I mean? Just be the one to write it down so that future generations, like, like the poor bastard that had to write down like the Battle of Agincourt. Just be that guy. It's like, oh well, okay, that's 3,000 horses down. That's yeah. Okay. The archers are ready again. Oh wow, these archers are pretty darn good. Horses and mud don't mix. Note to self: be the archer on the top of the hill. Yeah. 20,000 men. Here we go. Yeah, against 1,100 or something like that. And it's like, yeah. It's like, yeah, yeah. Like, imagine having to write that down, like being the guy to tell that story. It'd be so grandiose. Like, how do you even put that into words? The same thing that I would be talking about. The same guy who wrote about Napoleon knocking the nose off the Sphinx, if that was true or not, with a cannonball, right? What was the name of Napoleon's big cannon there? His favorite cannon. I think it was like 8 tons. They dragged it all over the damn place. Like, who drags an 8-ton cannon around? It was a nice looking cannon. It's still on display out there in France. But you know what I mean. Like, can you imagine being born in those times? Right? Those were dark times. But yeah, no, I think when you get the people, it's like anything, they become cliquey or whatever. So, like with the book stuff, I guess I'll round up and then get doing something else. Maybe work on my tools, whatever. But you have to keep inspiration. One has to keep inspiration on himself. I have no problem with this. I'm like, well, life is what you make of it. Okay, my vehicle breaks down. Yeah, it's depressing because that your vehicle breaks down for like the past 6 months or whatever. Okay, you're broke. Okay, yeah, you're depressed because you're broke. Okay, I get that. But you've got so many other things that you can focus on. You can focus on what I don't have, or you can go and find out that relationships, which can cost you nothing other than your time, can be the most fulfilling things, even if you have nothing. You know what I mean? And this is where Family Nation Future comes in. This is where sense of community comes in, extended family and stuff like that. And extended family doesn't mean just people that are related to you. It could be in your community. Like, I love having conversations with just people in my community, even if it's about absolutely nothing more. A conversation no heavier than how's the weather. And just getting people out of their own heads. Getting you out of your own head. I mean, like, that's the way to do it. Um, it is the way to do it. And I truly believe that, like, for example, the YouTube thing, like, I mean, I reached the world, I reached the world, a guy just sitting there blabbing away about whatever, and people get to, take their trolling frustrations out on me and make fun of me and laugh at me and stuff. Okay, fine. If they feel that's what they must do. But I love listening to like the comments and I can tell when you guys are like enjoying the video because it's just the funny shit you guys say in retaliation to the dumb shit I say, right? So, like, who won? Like, it's a win-win. You feed the trolls, they're happy. You don't care, you're happy. You know what I mean? Isn't that the way to be? Look, it is November 30th after making this video, and we're about to head into December. From December 1st on, and I hate to have to say this, but unfortunately, it's something that's true. December is the darkest month out of the year, not just because the sun is the lowest and daylight is, pretty low. And yes, people get sad and the seasonal disorders. I don't get that. Like, I'm not saying I don't get it. I'm saying I don't experience that. I'm not saying I can't experience that. But, like, I could be out there in the worst weather, but I'm outside, and when it's really miserable outside, like today, it's miserable outside, right? But then I come inside and it's nice and warm, and you're like, oh, this is great. Because you have a comparison where if you just sat inside all day and didn't realize that it's actually worse out there than it is in here, that's what gets you. I think that's what gets people is being stuck in, like, office workers. The winter time, like, everybody's depressed this time of year. People in the high north, they're all whacked out on antidepressants, which I think you need to learn how to embrace the dark, so that you're not so stressed out. So you need to go on your own hero's journey. Like, if I was an Inuit guy, okay, just walking from house to house in the wintertime when it's pitch black dark, it's like, that's a hero's journey, just not getting eaten by a polar bear. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I walked this far today without getting eaten. The next day, I walked that far without getting, like, I'd be happy about that. You know what I mean? Like, that would make me ecstatic. I wouldn't even care about the dark. It's like, it's just, yeah. And then in the summertime, you're like, well, sun's out, I can see the polar bear, and then you get eaten by a polar bear. It's like you let your guard down or something like that. But no, people suffer this time of year, especially December on. The closer we get to Christmas, the worse the suicide rates get and stuff like that, because people feel empty inside and stuff like that. The isolation. Now, I know we're talking about like picking up books and stuff like that and whatever, but like just thinking about like the books that you would read in the winter versus what you would read in the summer. Maybe you read the dark books in the summer when you're getting the vitamin D coming to you, and maybe you read the hero's journey books or the happier books in the winter. Like you need to, keep your mind moving in several different directions so that you can stay grounded in reality, right? And I think that's what happens to a lot of people when they read too many books. They isolate their brains and they go insane. And that you see it with gamers, where gamers like they're cool, whatever, and then something a little bit stressing happens to them, and suddenly they just fly off that. Like you can find all kinds of like gamer flip outs, or people video. There was like it was. Don't ask me why I took so much glee watching this, but it was like people dying inside, like just YouTube people dying inside. I'm just like, it's like this guy talking. I haven't seen my family in 5 years, and all I do is play video games 24 hours. He comes to realize that I just wasted my life. It's like he's like 24, right? And he's like, yeah, I just wasted the past 4 years of my life playing video games. Like realizing that while he's online playing video games, and he's like, you got it. Now you can heal. Once you understand that, once you understand what's broken, you can heal. But how you heal is not going to be online. It's not going to be by reading self-help books. Searching for happiness, pursuit of happiness, the dumbest thing you could ever do. Because happiness is not a destination, it's a byproduct of fulfillment. I cannot stress that enough. That's why when you see all these self-help, and you'll be happier. No, you won't. You will not be any happier. You can't be happier until you can make a connection. And the best way to make a connection is to watch a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old stuff their face in bread and laugh about it because the piece of buttered bread is stuck to the face. Like, just sit there and laugh at it. Don't try to understand it. Just laugh at it because it's hilarious. Why? Because it's a child's mind. Like, I wish I could be there again. Like like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a punk rocker astronaut on the moon playing guitar, like cross between Jimi Hendrix and Elvis Presley. Yeah. You think I could come up with that today? Well, probably could, but I am immature for my age. But you get the idea. But one thing that I find fulfilling is trying to rub off on the younger generation. Like whatever I like. For example, teaching the young lad, my friend's young lad, teaching him how to fly fish. I enjoy doing that. Like, you show the kid, and he starts to get it, whatever. It's like, okay, they're at that age. Teaching my nephew stuff all the time. Watching the big thing with my nephew and I is like the hosing around when we're doing the dishes to make it fun. It's like if there's a metal pot or whatever. Last night, like I said, here, hold up this metal pot. And I grab the towel and I snap the towel. That's what we do. Like, we're always snapping towels at each other. He's getting good at it. He's getting really good at it. But I hit the pot last night. It was tongue like that. And it's like my dad's like, "What are you guys doing in there?" And it's like, nothing. It was Aiden. And I sold him out right away. He's like, "Well, no, it's Uncle Shesha." I do this to him all the time. But, it's things like that. Like, life should be about experience. Like, I was telling my nephew to do this to his friends. I said, whenever you see a cute girl walk by and you're with your buddy, you say, "Oh, yeah, she's cute." "Yeah, I noticed that too." And you'll be like, and just laugh. We used to do that to each other when we were in high school all the time. Well, yeah, you would be walking behind a couple of girls, and then you'd slightly walk just behind your buddy. So, yeah, you're right. You should ask her out. And the girl would turn around with either a smile or like a mortified look on her face, one or the other. It was funny, and I didn't say that. It wasn't me, and you'd be sitting there watching them squirt. Mind you, they do it to you too. Me, I just embrace it. Like, how you doing? And the Reg, fuck off. It's like we know what you just did. But yeah, we do this to each other all the time, and it was fun. It was just so much fun, but it was social, and it's that social interaction that if you I don't care how good. If you don't know how to socialize, it's easier than most people think because you don't overthink it. There is no do or do not, or there is no try. There's only do or do not. Like Yoda said, it's pretty much that simple. You either do it or you don't. The thing is, people try so hard. It's like these pickup artist guys. Oh man, the it's I feel bad for these guys because they think it could actually work, right? And they spend all this money just trying to learn how to socialize, and it's just like when you just gotta just go out and talk to people, you know. And the thing is if you want to learn how to really talk to people, it's retail. Yeah, go work retail. Yeah, you'll be talking to people. And again, there's people that do it and they have antisocial behaviors and they go out and do that. It's a miserable job for them, but it's like it's so rewarding when you ditch your antisocialness because it's just like you can kind of be all things to all people to a degree. No, I'm not talking about a phony and a fake, but like just be yourself and just be that person that, oh, well, okay, you're going to talk to me about this, you're going to talk to me about that, you're going to talk to me, and you're always getting something interesting. That's called stimulation, right? And I think, yes, you get that out of books. But one thing I noticed about the book people, we'll call them book people, avid readers, is the only thing they like more about a boot, I'm going to say it properly, than reading the books is discussing the book after. Like I say, that's almost as important or more important because then it's a social event, right? And then once you have that social event in that encounter, you can put it away and move on to the next book. And then that even if you go into that book and you're in the book wilderness of ideas or whatever, you could operate in both realms, which to me I think is ideally what you want. But the thing is that you need to have a certain craving of it. If you could just do whatever you want all the time, at any time you wanted. This is why you see some celebrities and stuff. This is my theory why you see celebrities and stuff like that go off the deep end so much. If you could just do whatever you want, have whatever you want, and just be wherever you wanted to be and do whatever you wanted to do all the time, you end up you don't. You procrastinate because it's just there. You know it's there for the taking. When you have a limited amount of time to do something that you're looking forward to doing, you tend to embrace it a bit more because you understand there's a rarity to it that you can't just do this all the time. And because you can't just do this all the time, it gives you something to anticipate, look forward to, etc., whatever that thing is, right? Me, it's time off. But my time off, I do spend a lot of time twiddling thumbs. But I get to make videos, I get to sort out my tools, clean up this place. Um, again, there's progress every day. There's a little bit of progress down here. It's something that I wake up in the morning. I go to bed thinking about what I'm going to do the next day, and I can't wait to get through my 8 hours of sleep or whatever, so I can get up and do it again. That's a nice feeling to have. Some of you are probably saying, Reg, I don't feel that at all. I don't get that at all. I don't understand, and I feel bad for if you don't understand, but you can change it. Like you can change it. You just don't overthink it. Just change it. And that's 90% of it. Don't overthink it. Like don't deep analyze. The problem with the deeper meaning of everything is a left-hand path, more relativist ideology of deconstructionism, right? Postmodernism summed up. And the idea is for enlightenment, you have to get to the deeper meaning of everything. Okay, fair enough, that's fine. But there's also deeper meaning vs faith, right? If you understand what faith is the faith is to understand knowing that you're not going to know all, that you can't know all. You just have to embrace it for what it is, such as whether it's a religious book or trying to understand the mind of a 5-year-old. Like there's no difference there. That's the same thing. You're trying to understand something that you can't possibly understand anymore, right? But if you just embrace it and just say, you know what, just laugh at the madness of it all, you'll enjoy it a lot better, and you don't take it so hyper personally, and you don't feel like a failure. You just say it is what it is, and how do I navigate around this? But no, most people that are isolated and everything like that are isolated by escapism and individuality because they have no deeper connection. Like rootless people become broken very within their own minds very easily. And this is why, like the big metropolitan areas, are the areas that usually have the most mental health issues, is because it's just okay. You went from the small town. Oh, the small town's so boring. But sometimes the small town that's boring is the grounding you need, right? Now, if you're somebody that grew up in the city and you go, oh, I'm going to move to a small town and I'm going to go get grounded, well, you're still in the same problem because you still have no roots there. To upheaval yourself as like a pioneer and plant yourself somewhere else in the world, okay, and become a part of a community is not something easily done. Like you have to plan it out a little bit. This is why people gravitate to sports teams. Why they gravitate. It's the family that they want. Yes, it's great to be a part of a winning team. Whatever, and make millions of dollars. But most people play the sports not because they just love the sport. That's part of it. But the bigger thing is the team. You're a part of a team. That's why mountain climbers, you'll see them, climb Everest as groups. They're a team, right? The military, it's military is a family. You know what I mean? It's a team. Your actual family is a team. Now, if you're one of those unfortunate people, maybe you're an only child or whatever, and you've never had that sibling or whatever, you could still substitute it in other areas. It's just it'll be something different. You have to accept the faith of that you're never going to get resolution or closure on what you just can't obtain, right? And you just got to be able to accept it. That's the stoicism of it. And once you do that, then you can move on from it and put your energy where you can obtain, where you can create connections. Maybe you go and you help out a soup kitchen. Okay, seeing all these depressed, broken people might not be for everybody. You'll often notice people that have like mental health issues tend to want to help other people's first because like I could better understand them because I'm going through it myself, right? And then you just realize it just puts them off the deep end because they can't handle the doom of it, right? They need to do something else. But what do? They don't know what to do, right? And you have to find your own niche. So escapism becomes the thing. Now you can escape in books, video games, drugs, or sports, or the wilderness, or meditation. Their escapism is nor good nor bad, and it has so many forms. Like people don't understand that if you're just addicted to reading books and never socializing people, you might as well be hooked on fentanyl or crack cocaine. It's going to have the same effect on you in the end. Why? Because like you're disconnected from family, you're disconnected from communication of just being able to communicate. You know what I mean? It will approach it in a different way, but it will have the same effect in the end, and that's the downfall of a human being. So we don't want that. We never want that. We want good connections. This is why you'll see, and you'll probably see this, like sometimes you see this in like third world countries where you got this guy, he doesn't even have a pair of shoes. And he's like happy as a clam. He's just like always smiling, I got nothing but, like he's not weighed down by anything either. Just keep it simple, just keep it happy. But he goes back to the village, everybody's, hey, how you doing, right? And it's like, yeah, does the guy really have nothing? He's got an entire village that, talks to him every day. He's never isolated. He's never stuck in his own head because he doesn't have time because he's out there shaking hands and high-fiving people and helping in his community, doing this for the elderly. And suddenly, all of a sudden, it's like you realize, no, this guy has everything he needs. It's just, it's not junk. It's not commercial, right? Now, I'm also not one of those people that are saying like materialism has no value. Materialism does have a value. Like, I mean, people that, have lots of money can live happier lives, but it's, the thing is it really comes down to the human being. Like I know people that make like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and they still bitch about everything. Like, I'm just like, dude, my car broke down, and I've been, bumming rides to get to work and back from everybody, and just be, so humbled by that because it's just like, okay, yeah, like these people are really going to bat for me even when they don't have to. But it's because they get something out of it. So when somebody calls me on Sunday morning and says, "Hey, can you go shovel the church step?" Yes, I go shovel the church step. Why? Because it's like they do it for me. You know what I mean? They do it for me, and that's a nice feeling, right? That's a nice feeling. And then and it's not to say I'm better than you or I've got this and you don't. No, there's people that have even better connections than I do. And I'm happy for you if you do. What I mean? I'm not a jealous person. If you make more money than me and you're doing well, I'm happy for you. I really am. I'd like to be thrown a bone once in a while too, so that I don't have to struggle as much. But I also understand, in relative to what, right? This is something I understood as from a very young age. That okay, well, I remember having conversations with my peers at the time, being 15 or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh man, such a bad day." I'd be like, "Relative to what? I mean, there's no bombs raining on our head. We're doing pretty good. Nobody's shooting at us. You know what I mean? You got a belly full of food. You're not starving to death. I mean, in relative to what? Like maybe you have to lower the bar a bit, to appreciate what you do have. You know what I mean? So if you're always focused on what you don't have, or what you can't communicate, or what you can't get from others, and this is where, again, getting back to the book people, the reader people, again, when they get into the I've read this many books in this short amount of time, and it's like they're looking for validation that you go, oh wow, that's amazing that you can. Where it's like, okay, yeah, but did you get anything out of the book? I don't care if you have 500 books that you read or 5,000 books that you read. Did you get anything out of it? That's I'm more concerned about that for you than how many books you've read and how fast you've read them, right? Because I'm like, did you enjoy it? Because if you didn't enjoy it, you just skimmed through it super fast just to say you read it. You're not. I know you didn't enjoy it. Go back, do it again. Take your time with it. Hone the art of the craft. Um, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, these type of men, like they understood the concept of honing the art of the craft, right? Be like that. Do that. Yeah, be more like that. Because you got to think these guys, they had to be happy uh, in the sense that they were fulfilled. You know what I mean? They're always chasing their dream, and there was always their biggest problems was to fulfill the things that they dreamt about doing. Okay, well, here's just the strategy of painting the 16th chapel. You know what I mean? Like, that would be okay, that would be the stressing angle of it, but the idea that they're painting the 16th chapel, like something that, okay, 1,000 years down the road, people are still going to be looking at your artwork. Tell me that's not going to be fulfilling. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah, so those that are feeling like isolated and stuff like that, having their worldviews challenged by books and stuff like that, that's fine. Don't worry about that. Like, I mean, it's just going to grow you as a person if you're willing to embrace that. Maybe not every idea you have is perfect. I know mine aren't. I'm wrong all the time. But I'm also right a lot of the time too because I'm willing to accept that I can be wrong. Hence why I've always said never look at the black and white. Look at the gray. The gray is where you find the most information. That's where you find the most honesty, the most realism. And it's hard to accept that because we always want our biases to be basically catered to, right? But the thing is that that's not like telling somebody what they want to hear all the time seems to be more damaging than telling people what they don't want to hear and challenging them. They don't like being challenged at first because it triggers them and makes their blood boil and they just get mad as soon as they hear something that they don't want to hear. But after they do this, so there's a study that shows, like, for example, people with anger issues, right? That the more, every time you fight off, like, that impulsive anger, your brain rewires after a point where things just don't phase you, right? Like, it's like, maybe not phase you, but you don't get angry, like, over the littlest, dumbest thing over nothing. It just doesn't happen because you're just like, well, is what it is. Like don't take everything so personally. And you can't do that for people. They have to do it for themselves. So if people are really high in neuroticism, this is where it becomes like where you're talking to a wall. They have to figure it out themselves. Look, it's this. Go make connections. You're your own limitation. You're the one holding yourself back. It's not them. It's you. You're the one that I'm too smart to talk to people. I'm not going to talk to people that are I don't I have clashing ideas with, because I'm all for debate and stuff like that. But the idea, okay, well, when you're not in debate mode, and you don't always have to be in debate mode, and there's some people that they can't remove themselves from that. You'll see this like a lot on, like, say, talk show hosts, where they're always angry because they're always in debate mode, right? Well, their partner doesn't want to be in debate mode, so it's like, okay, I just went and debated this guy, and then you come home and you just start laying into the wife of, oh yeah, well, he said this and I said this, and then, well, I was right, he was right. She doesn't want to hear it. Doesn't want to hear it. No wife wants to hear the husband come home from work and bitching about his day at work. No woman. Keep it to yourself. Yes, you need to bitch to your friends. Don't bitch to your wife, right? No husband wants to come home and hear his wife complain and whine about the people at work. Nobody wants to hear that. No son, no daughter wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that, right? I get it if you got something, like the odd thing that happens, but like on a daily basis, the people that complain about their workplace do it all the time. It's muscle memory. Like I come over, oh, this freaking guy at work, this. Well, why are you? Who cares about that other guy? As long as you're doing your job, Okay, this guy at work nearly got me killed. Okay, yeah, you can bitch about that. That's something substantial. But just the data. Oh, this person is incompetent. That person is incompetent. And again, I've worked with people that are like that. It's just like they're never happy. And I'm just like, dude, it's a retail job. Why do you care? Have fun with it. Look, like, oh, this job sucks. Well, in relative to what? Okay, it's snowing and it's raining outside sideways. Okay, and we're in here dry. Yeah, but it's boring. Yeah, but we're dry. Go work outside in that weather with a chainsaw for a few hours, and then tell me what you're gonna. Tell me how boring the job is. Mind you, though, you enjoy the adventure, the hero's journey with the chainsaw, right? Because it is hard and it is challenging you. And yes, you are wet and uncomfortable. So when you do come into someplace nice and warm, you just appreciate it, and then you feel accomplished because you've done something that was uncomfortable and out of your comfort zone. It pushes you to grow, right? So again, people can be their own worst enemy here. And again, the people out there trying to fix all these broken people, well, it's like the thing and this is the hardest, and this is probably where the isolation and the loneliness comes into, like, say, our sphere of, like, say, people on the nationalist right or whatever. And, this idea that, well, you hate everybody because you're this, or you hate everybody because you're that, right? I don't think is true. There's truth to some of it. There are people like that. There are bitter people out there, all walks of life, all belief systems. I think we could see it, a lot of it's self-evident, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the given rule. So the isolation, like, for example, men on the right, it's like, okay, well, all the women are woke left. All the books are telling them to be woke left, right? All the pop culture is telling them to be woke left. All the schools are telling them to be, and again, and all the boys, they're the product of the woke left's, basically rage, right? It's like, if you're a straight white male, you're the most hated person on the planet. I don't think anybody's going to really refute that, because, because of the way people will react to you just saying that, right? And the thing is, if you're aware of it, it's like, okay, yeah, but do I care about the people who actually hate me? You know what I mean? Like, for just being me, you know what I mean? Like, do I actually really care about? No, I sleep well at night. I sleep like a baby. It's of no consequence to me if I'm taking up free rent in your head. Like, it's like, yeah, go nuts. Not literally, but you will go nuts if I'm taking up rent in your head as somebody you just absolutely hate. That's on you, number one. And number two, it's doing you no good. Like that space can be used for something. So you have to question your brain. Why am I spending so much time pondering this thing that's upsetting me so? Why am I so upset with that? Well, everybody knows about dopamine hits and stuff like that. But my theory is this: is that the misery is the dopamine hit. Addicted to misery. Like there's studies that show stuff like this. I can't, recall right off the top of my head, but I remember like people. It's the same reason why you get like battered wife syndrome, or the guy that just keeps getting abused by his girlfriend or wife or whatever and belittled, and he just cucks to it. There is a psychology. It's a Stockholm syndrome, right? It's basically that. And the thing about it is that it's taking so much rent in your head that you can't function as a human being. You can't function daily because it's like when you want to go enjoy something, you're still thinking about how angry you're at this person that really is inconsequential to you. So, for people that don't have those problems and they're surrounded by all these people that do, like I've said, trying to figure out the rationality of a crazy person will drive you insane. You just have to accept that they're insane. So if you can clearly tell that you're not one of these people, how do you have a happy life around all these miserable people? Well, you've got to flip the script. You've got to kind of come at it with the mindset that you can't save everybody. So just meet them where they're at. Meet them with the small talk and the niceties, and try to get something out of the small talk and niceties the same way you would having a conversation with a kid. If somebody that's all they can do is complain and whine about everything in their life, those people, maybe they've never been told that you know how you sound, right? And they're not going to like it when you tell them that. But maybe it might dawn on, yeah, I'm a bit of a Debbie Downer, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And that kind of thing. Now, you could be the total jackass opposite way, full of yourself all the time and try to be the life of the party all the time. Me, and over the top. Yes, I'm self-aware of how much of a jackass I can be, and I'm aware of it. But it's like, okay, well, I'll try to contain myself, the best I can. But if I go over the deep end, I don't lose any sleep over it either, because it's just like, okay, yeah, I know. And my friends used to tell me all the stories of like, okay, Reg, you were just completely out there last night, being a total jackass and whatever. But everybody got laughs out of it. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. What's done is done. I'll try to better myself the next time. And over time, you do. Over time, you do. You find the moderate ground. So anyway, I know this kind of conversation kind of went a little all over the place, but I wanted to give you a little more in depth stuff. How I'm judging the books I'm going to be reading, what they're going to be about, and why it's more about the quality than the quantity. And I think if people start focusing on more of that, they won't have these isolated things, but also just dividing your time up into more than one thing. It does become taxing when you try to take on too much at a time. You see this all the time with, people putting their kids in like 5 different sports, and it's like, okay, yeah, maybe do one a week. It's like, keep it realistic, right? Yeah, so live within your means. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. So this is a nice big philosophy video for you. Guys, tell me what you think. What you got out of it, what you did. Maybe I just wasted 2 hours of your life. I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it. It's like, do you know I was waiting for a big grand finish and you just ruined it all? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Anyway, and you should be too. So anyway, there we go. So next to that, rate, subscribe, like, be true to yourself, be true to others, always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day.